should go ahead and introduce exactly what we do and kind of the content we cover, if it's not obvious, because I'm sure not all of these people are familiar with our podcast.
I'm sure that's true. And Arnie has already asked where Cheryl is, and we're going to try and bring her on here in a little bit. We do have a 2-hour window blocked out. I can't imagine anybody's going to hang with us for that long. But point of fact, the problem is right now she can't get online with us because her Windows computer is updating.
Oh, no.
So therein lies one of the problems with Windows. But anyway, what do we do here? Well, we do a podcast. And the podcast is about using Linux in your ham shack, but it's also about a whole bunch of other things. We talk about technology, science. We try and do how-tos, deep dive discussions on new and existing technology. And basically, all of it is with a mind to using open source, the philosophy and the software and the hardware wherever applicable. And that is the whole point of the show. What this is going to be, because Bill says he's recording it, is episode number 400 of the show. So you are all participating in the 400th episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. And I have to say, I see chat flying by in the chat room. And I'm not going to be able to keep up with that. So what I will say is I think there's like a Q&A tab, and there's also like a raised hand thing. So if you have a question, I would use one of those two things to kind of
the raise the hand thing is
the
raise the hand thing is basically we'll bring them on stage with us, kind of like you just did for me because I was punted out. So yeah, if you're not set up for audio and video, then just go ahead and use the Q&A, and we'll go ahead and look in there for all of that good stuff. Let me and I think I actually have everything recording now, so this is a good sign.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, feel free to keep chatting in the chat. We'll try and keep up with that as much as possible. But if you have a specific question related to either Linux in the Ham Shack, the show, or Linux in the Ham Shack, like the host of the show, go ahead and stick that in the Q&A. And someone's already asked for us to put a poll up of all of what distributions people are running.
I'll work on that.
And that will probably take longer than the show is going to be.
We'll keep it as generic as possible.
Yeah. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that
right now?
Oh, you'll set it up right now. Okay. Yep. And there's also another one. Let's see. This is from Dave. Sorry, NK7Z. He asks, has anyone been able to get JT Alert running under Wine? And here's what I'll say about running JT Alert under Wine. Use Grid Tracker. It's much better than JT Alert. You don't have to run it under Wine. It's cross-platform, runs on anything because it's JavaScript by and large. And also, if you really want to run JT Alert, there's another project called Alarm JT, or Alarm GT, as we've come to call it. That is a Linux native version of JT Alert. So go that route, or one of those two routes. But I would highly recommend using Grid Tracker instead. I think you'll find it much more robust. Let's see. Oh man, Q&A is coming hard and fast too. This is gonna be.
Apparently I can't put that many answers in here, so we'll just leave this as other. Okay, so there we go.
Right. So there's an open source SDR rig called ANAN or Anon. Oh man, it's like scrolling off. What are your takes of it as opposed to Flex Radio technically? I can't answer that because I do not know what ANAN is, or Anon.
Anon is the other SDR from India, I believe, based on the HP SDR project. I haven't run it, but I hear it's pretty good.
All right. Man, this is just going to be crazy. We need a moderator.
Yeah, that's what Cheryl should do. She should start moderating it.
Carl asked, does a Debian repo exist that is solely ham radio utilities? Yes, there does. It's called the Ham Radio Pure Blend. We have done several shows on the Pure Blend. You could probably search our website for Pure Blend and get links to how to invoke it. But it's basically a meta package, and if you're running a Debian variant like Ubuntu or something like that, it'll be available. All you have to do is an apt-get install ham radio -star, and that will install all the good stuff.
Yeah. So the poll is out. So if you want to join the poll, go ahead and get over to the little poll tab and put in your answer. And I already see somebody has put an arch, so I feel sorry for you, but that's okay. We did look at a really nice arch distro not too long ago. So I think it was just an episode or two ago. Wasn't that Garuda or something like that was based on arch?
Yeah.
That looked really nice, and it almost tempted me. But I'm waiting for an update cycle and a kernel replacement just to see if it'll crash itself before I commit to using that as a system. But yeah, we got 60 votes so far, so it's going along here. We'll go ahead and let it run for a few minutes, and we'll see. We got some more stuff here.
Are you including Raspberry Pis as versions of Linux from ARK8ALL? And the answer is yes. I mean, Raspberry Pis are not a variant of Linux, but variants of Linux that run on Raspberry Pis certainly usable for ham shack computing or anything else for that matter. So absolutely, that's included. Let's see where else we got.
I got one here from Ian. I can't. My screen's so small, and I'm blind by my old age. Let's see. As November Victor for Charlie looks like he asks if when I will be updating the YouTube series on building a Linux ham shack computer, and I've been promising that for a very long time. Yeah, I would like to do it soon. I am all prepped to actually do it. I have set everything up here in the shack to do all the recording. I have made some stabs at actually doing the record. However, I kept on running into caveats in the middle of doing my install, and it just basically made me stop, and then I never got started back up. So so hopefully I'll get back to those. I know that they are very well watched on YouTube, and again, we're a podcast. We don't really do a lot of YouTube content, so getting out the old the video editor and everything else, and making sure everything's perfect for that platform is always a bit more effort. So, but yeah, I really want to do it. I want to go through and do a whole series of various Linux distros and getting them ham radio ready. And I kind of started that series, but I have not published any of them. I have recorded a Fedora one, an Ubuntu one, and I was working on a Mint one when I stopped. Things have kind of picked up here at work, so I've been very, very busy getting stuff done. So I will definitely try to get back to that. Do you see one you're going to answer next?
Let's see. Someone asked about the wine, and it's neither of those. It's not Pinot or Chardonnay. It's Vidal Blanc. So there you go. What else we got? Has anyone Has anyone had success installing Power SDR with a Flex 1500 under wine?
Not that I've heard of.
Someone else can try and address that. That's not something I've even tried to do. So,
yeah, someone answer that for who is that? Steve was asking K6SFO.
Yeah, let's see. Have you heard? Okay, this comes from holy crap, Mike VA3TEC. Have you heard of OpenWebRx? Yes, we have. We've talked about OpenWebRx after the death of.
That was the platform for using OpenWebRx. That kind of came out of all the Lime SDRs and stuff like that. It's just you got tired of maintaining authentication and ensuring that the system wasn't being misused and DDoSed and all the other stuff. So he retired actually supporting that, but you can find OpenWebRx actually on the website. It's actually come back alive, and he's got some new builds out there. Including some Raspberry Pi builds, so you can easily just throw an image on your Raspberry Pi and you're up and running. All you need to do is plug in your SDR and get that configured, and you're golden. So yeah, it's very good. We have reviewed it in the past. It was during the time of SDR HU was still alive and kicking, but I believe there's some other websites now that have kind of fulfilled that gap in that marketplace.
All right, let's see. There's stuff in the main chat. We got Windows pays my bills. Well, okay. I mean,
same here.
Yeah. I have to use it in my day job as well. That came from Paul K and 6PH. Yes. Open source is the way to go from W2WF. We talk about, let's see, Arnie, SA7CAR says, you talk about Drambuie. Yes, we have talked about Drambuie. Bill calls it honey-flavored licorice cough syrup, and I call it moonbeams and unicorns.
Moonbeams and unicorns. That's funny. Yeah. It's honey lace sambuca. So there you go. But I love sambuca, so it works for me. So if I have a laptop running Windows, what Linux install do you recommend to run in a virtual machine like VBox? Geez, this is from W2WF. I'm not sure why you'd want to honestly run Linux in a virtual machine on Windows. I mean, you can. If you're going to run VirtualBox or whatever, any distribution will work because, like, it's all virtual. If you want the easiest one to get running, obviously Ubuntu, Mint come to mind because they're attached to the Debian Ham Radio Pure Blend project, so you can get a hold of those, or even Debian, obviously, because it's the foundation of both those systems. Or you can get UI working with WSL2. So if you're running in the latest Windows 10, like Cheryl's trying to get going, you can run Windows Subsystem for Linux 2, and then do some fancy stuff and get your UI to work. And then you can kind of run it I wouldn't say natively, but less stuff in the middle between the bits.
Let's see. N5RKO asks, has anyone tried running WiresX Windows app under Wine? I have not tried to do that. I run it natively on Windows, and honestly, because the WiresX software is such crap in general, I don't know that I'd want to even try and run it under Wine. The only reason I run WiresX anyway is because I want to have access to my WiresX room, because I have a DR1X here, and they wrote it for Windows, and this is one of those cases where I say, if you want to run it, just run it under Windows. Don't worry about it. And it's just, don't bother. Just run it under Windows in a VM or whatever. Port the USB through, whatever you need to do. Don't just do it native.
Here's a good question. This is one we probably try to answer the most on the podcast. And this is from, I can't even see the dang screen here. Koji, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. JP1HUJ or AI7HU. So he's got both call signs. What are the pros and cons to use Linux in a ham shack? Jeez, there's a lot of pros. Obviously, you don't have to wait several hours for Windows Update, like Cheryl's doing right now. I guess there's really no. It's hard to say there's a pro that doesn't exist for every operating system being in your ham shack, because obviously it allows you a workflow that allows you to save logs, connect to your radios. Do digital modes, everything in ham radio. So what's the difference in pros? Probably there's no real pro difference, except for you're using open source software, and that normally has a different foundation of meaning for people. The cons. Okay, there are some cons. One thing, you might not be able to run the exact application that you want to run. One that comes to mind for ham radio is like N1MM Plus. Although there has been a success getting it running under various revolutions of Wine or Proton, it's not guaranteed to work. But there are so many applications out there for Linux, and what makes it compelling is that if it doesn't quite work right, or you want to improve on it, most of them are open source projects. Most of them have the source available, and you can actually edit, modify, and run your own code on your box. So it allows you to kind of extend the existing application pool. And what do you think, Russ? What are some other good pros and cons?
I mean, the pros are, is generally speaking, it's inexpensive. Generally speaking, it's using the open philosophy, so all the source code's available. There are native applications, or at least alternatives, for 99% of what you want to run out there. So there's really no reason not to. And a lot of the stuff that runs on Linux is cross-platform, so the migration path is easy. And as far as cons, every once in a while you'll come across a wires X that you won't be able to run on Windows or run on Linux, and you kind of have to suck it up and deal with that. Eventually it'll all go that way, I think, where there'll be a Linux variant for whether it's reverse engineered or actually developed by Yaesu or whoever. And so I don't really see a downside. I mean, if you're into like true performance and stuff like that, you still might have to deal with source code and building and things like that. But almost everything is pre-packaged. Installers are easy to navigate. Generally speaking, the distributions are less resource intensive, and I don't really see a lot of cons, honestly.
Yeah, it'd be basically anything that you personally run into, right? Would be like an only con. We have another couple things here. Oops, I'm moving the wrong mouse.
There's some good questions coming in here too.
Yeah, we have here one from a Fedora user. Are there any good ham radio logbooks RPM package for Fedora users? And that's from KN4. Is that JA? Jeez, oh Pete's. You guys have to apologize. I really like this screen is too tiny. Yes, obviously, I run Fedora here, and I was able to install CQR log, which is one of my personal favorites for a logbook. Although I think Klog is in there, Xlog, and there's a bunch of other loggers are available. If it's not in the main repo line, I'd suggest installing RPM Fusion, and that gets you access to a bunch more, at least what I consider acceptable and secure RPM packages. So you can check that out as well. But yeah, CQR log is what I use, and I recommend. It's a great logging program. It allows WSJTX and FLDigi to run in remote mode, so they just dump their logs in there. And the only thing I've seen, at least with the latest version, is that my grid tracker doesn't like connecting to my WSJTX anymore, but I think that's just me. So we also had a question here from KB something. He has a question. He says, "What do you guys do for work? What do you do for work, Russ?"
Well, I'm a jack of all trades, but systems engineer, systems admin, network engineer, network admin, anything that has to do with networking and server systems, I do it. All the east-west, all the north-south. If it's in a data center, I pretty much deal with it. So that's what I do.
Woot woot. And I'm a developer, unfortunately .NET. But hey, .NET Core. So we do a lot of .NET Core stuff and Vue and SQL and everything that it takes to run the legacy apps and all the new apps and everything else. And then I also do consulting work on the side in the laboratory informatics space. So that's pretty much it from here. Let's see.
I want to go back to a couple of older ones here. Let's see. I'm new to Linux. What distro do you recommend for an older netbook to make it useful? This is from Jim VA3KV. And I would say the distribution, generally speaking, doesn't matter. It's the desktop environment and the applications you run on top of it. Almost all Linux kernels will make an older laptop useful. I would say just keep your desktop environment to something like XFCE or LXDE, or maybe even Mate, just to make it perform better. But I think that's all you really need to do. I think the kernel side of it and the actual distribution is probably irrelevant. We sort of favor, we used to both favor Debian-based distributions. Bill's kind of fallen into the Fedora camp lately, so well, can't fault you for that too much, but yeah, I think it's all good unless you've got another suggestion.
No, that sounds good. I'm trying to fix. I threw up a magnifying glass, and all of a sudden I blew up everything.
Yeah, we have a question from Art KF7GD. Good distribution to start with on a Raspberry Pi for ham data, eventually SOTA portable. There are new ones coming along, but Raspbian, or what is now called RPi OS or Raspberry Pi OS, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. Ubuntu now has distributions that run on a Pi, but you want like at least a 4 gig Pi 4 to run them. Raspbian OS or Raspberry Pi OS will run on much older Pis, obviously. And if you're wanting to do Raspberry Pi-based soda operation, I'd just stick with that. I mean, it's golden. And since it's a Debian-based distribution, you still have access to all ham radio software. So that'd be my recommendation.
All right, cool.
Trying to mark these off.
Yeah, how do you mark them off?
There's a little thing down in the lower right that says "Mark is answered." Oh, you may not be able to see that.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. So
Sierra KN4 LIA says any good ham radio logbooks. You already answered that one, right?
Yep.
Okay, sources update. Yep, got that one. Now this is like work.
At least you can read it.
Footprint. Let's see. Robert has a comment, W5ITR. It says you can create a purpose-built small footprint OS that can be run with low resources. You can. Most people don't want to go to that extreme. Let's see. W2WF says he guessed that I was a sysadmin. Good guess. Micah AJ7BD says, are you aware of any commercial devices that are actually Linux on the inside? If it's a set-top box or an embedded device, probably everything.
Yeah. Even your Flex radio is Linux on the inside.
And can they be repurposed to install general software like WSJTX? Yeah, sometimes. I mean, that just depends on the device. But, Arnie SA7CAR says, what is wrong with me? Not sure we have any insight into that.
Yeah, get yourself fixed.
Run Linux.
Do the cheese grater one here. Let's
All right.
see. Bill Cody. He asks, he's got a cheese grater Mac running Windows 10. Any advice, experience on getting Linux on there on a 64-bit Intel Mac? Yeah, works great. I have a Mac Mini sitting right behind this computer right here, and it is running Fedora 33 like a champ. It's a mid-2011, and I believe, Russ, you have yours running Linux now too, and it's even older.
Yep, mine is a mid-2009. It's running Linux. There's a website or a wiki or something called, you can just Google for running Linux on a Mac, and it tells you all about the different Mac firmwares and what you have to do to get Linux running on them. You can even get Linux running on an old Mac, like a PowerPC Mac. There are distributions specifically for that. But if you're talking about Intel Macs, it's dirt simple.
Yeah, just install put the flash drive in, hold down your Option key, and then wait for it to be in the bootloader. Then go clicky, install.
Yep. Let's see.
What distros still have a 32-bit version? There are still a few out there, but most of your main lines have kind of relegated those off. So you need to start looking at some of the not so popular distributions for maintaining that, like damn small Linux and a bunch of other ones that are still catering to netbooks and stuff like that cannot run 64-bit stuff.
See, N5RKO says, I've been loving Kubuntu. Well, I guess if you're a KDE fan, we won't fault you for that. I've never been particularly excited about KDE and Plasma and all that junk, but I know lots of people who love it. So,
yeah, we got some people in the chat room just talking about the KM4 ACK Build-A-Pi, which, of course, we had him on the show not too many episodes ago either.
Yeah, that was pretty recent, yeah.
Yeah, a deep dive episode into that Build-A-Pi project. So check that out in our back catalog. Definitely a solid build for getting your Raspberry Pi set up with that kind of software. And let's see, we go to the poll real quick. We got 123 votes in, so that's about 50% of the people. I'll keep the poll open for the rest of the show, so you can keep on throwing votes in there. But let's see if I can read this. This is okay. We have 53% of the people are Ubuntu distro users, so that's our number one. The number two is other, so we might have to. That's probably Raspberry Pi. All the Raspberry Pi, Raspbian, and stuff like that. We have Mint users at 16%. Fedora users at 4%. Yes. We have two Arch users, so they're down there by themselves. And no Pop OS, really. So no System 76 users, or all the System 76 owners have supplanted their Pop OS with something other than that. So now, of course, all those, Ubuntu, Pop OS, and Mint are all sort of similar because they're all out of the same foundation. And now we have lost Russ. Where did Russ go?
No, I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
Cheryl's in the audience, and I'm trying to figure out how to bring her in. It says I can only do that if I'm backstage, but I don't know how to get backstage when I'm on stage.
Well, tell her to raise her hand.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Raise your hand.
It's the hand thing right in the middle of the screen.
All right.
There she is. Now bring her on.
There we go. Look at that.
I know.
Yep, there you are. So Arnie keeps asking about you. So say hi to Arnie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm. Oh, my camera's turned off. That's fine. There we go.
Oh, there. All right.
Hi, Arnie.
Hey, there we are.
All right. Shirley's even has a recipe queued up if we need to go there. So we'll see. Well, maybe we'll do a poll and see if anyone wants to hear a recipe. All right. Well, it looks like there's more stuff in the Q&A here. Let's see. Bill from W2WF. What programming language do you think best for developing ham radio apps on Linux?
Oh, it depends. Depends on what you're doing. Obviously, we just had the OpenRTX guys on, and they're doing embedded hardware and stuff like that, and that's purely ham radio, isn't it? So they're using C because they need to get down the low levels. I would say Rust, Go is probably another one that's probably pretty good. Obviously, with Flutter kind of taking the main stage with Canonical and Ubuntu, that would probably be something to look at, and I believe that runs Dart underneath. So that would be a good language. Good one that most people play with that you see in a lot of projects, obviously, is Python, because Python is pretty consumable by most people. They can read it and look at it. So I wouldn't be afraid to develop an app using Python, but then you have to pick what am I going to use for my GUI? Am I going to use GTK? Am I going to use Qt? What have you? So yeah, a lot of people are developing progressive web apps for everything, so they tend to go with whatever Electron will run or something like that to make it cross-platform. But I think that stage is starting to widen now too, so I wouldn't be surprised to see at least some PWA cross-platform apps and stuff like that, running even .NET with Blazor and stuff like that running in the background.
I don't have any thoughts on that. I only code in programming languages that people look down upon. So,
well, I started programming in Perl and BASIC. So,
well, I started with Perl and BASIC and Fortran and some of the older stuff too, but not anymore. Let's see. Let's see. We have other questions. They keep coming in, which is excellent. I'm so glad
There's
you guys
some
are.
questions down at the bottom. I don't think you guys talked about yet.
I think we did. I've checked off all the ones that we've done. So.
Oh no, I mean all the way at the bottom.
Okay.
I know a couple of them you did, but there was the one best way to start if you're a beginner. All ham digital modes.
Oh, I guess we missed that one. Let's go back to that one. Who asked that? Does it say? Obviously, it says. But.
Yeah.
Art Jury, KF7GD.
Yeah, so best way to start if you are a beginner. Goal, ham radio digital modes. Well, any distribution, you can definitely get WSJTX running on Arch, Fedora, Ubuntu. Obviously, if you want it simple, just go straight to one of the Debian-based ones, Ubuntu or Linux Mint. They would be good transitional environments. Linux Mint seems to be really popular with Windows users and that are not real familiar with the nuances of various graphical user interfaces or desktop environments or windowing environments, whatever we decide to call them this week in Linux. Linux Mint seems to be really popular, and then you can just install WSJTX and Grid Tracker, and you'll look like a pro on the digital modes in like a day. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to second that because I've been reading all these other questions we missed way back, and I hope the people who asked them are still here so we can answer them. We have one from Steven, WB2, is it CKC? Could jump
written in Windows only, and ones that are written for Mac OS only are not available in Linux.
But yeah, I don't know that we can speak to what those are, because I'm pretty sure that most of the ones I've run that are Linux native will generally also run on Windows or something else, usually because they're using some sort of language or compiler engine or build environment that runs cross-platform. So they're generally available anywhere, because I mean, you can run C apps on Windows, you can run Perl, Python, PHP, JavaScript, blah blah blah. So if it's written on one of those, it's gonna be cross-platform by default. And there was one about talking about logging software in general. That's a huge topic. We've done whole episodes on logging. I don't know what we want to say about logging. It's a huge topic. It's really kind of too broad for this. There are lots of loggers out there. Bill loves CQR log, which we've already mentioned. Contest logger.
It's the only logger, right? Okay. It's the only one it's the only logger, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there are other loggers, but yeah, it's a huge topic. I would suggest going to LHS podcast on info and search for logging, and you're probably going to get more information than you ever wanted, because it's a big topic and everybody wants to know how to do logging. And there's a million ways and a million apps. So
I had a non-Linux question here from Ivan.
Okay.
WC2S, it looks like. He says, is a non-Linux question allowed? Of course. I mean, we will definitely take your questions. If so, Bill, how are you connecting your Heil mic to your computer? This is a stupid thing right here. I'm actually using an Evo 4. That's right here. So you can see me talking into my thing here. So yeah, this is what I use all the time. It works. It's not the best, I can say that, but it's probably been the most reliable so far. I've been looking at a new device for doing that, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. But yeah, that's what I'm using. I'm using an Audent Evo 4 right now for connecting up the microphone.
Okay, there was one here from, let's see, CW Black, WR5J. He asked, how do you get past the need to know Linux before you can possibly make Linux work problem? Well, I would say that's a problem from 15 years ago. That problem is not really a problem anymore. You don't need to know Linux to make Linux work. Cheryl can tell you.
I'm the prime example of that.
She started to tell you the story as I was telling you she can tell you the story. So
no, I just said I was a prime example of that. 15 years ago, I was away from home for a couple of months. I had fought Russ tooth and nail to not put Linux on my computer. And he said one day, I was going to come home and it was going to be on the computer. And I came home one day, it was on the computer. I called him at work. I said, I don't know what to do. He said, sink or swim, you'll figure it out. And by the time he got home from work, I was fine. So he doesn't let me do some things because I tend to tear stuff up. But that's like tinkering with names that I shouldn't tinker with.
One of the things we've talked about on the show a fair bit is that as Linux develops over time, its consistency with, or its synergy with, the look and feel of Windows environments, particularly on the desktop, gets closer and closer. So it's very easy to switch from one to the other. There's very little that if you saw a Linux desktop, you wouldn't recognize coming from the Windows world. And as far as things like compiling applications, which used to be a big deterrent to people switching over to Linux, or like having to do kernel builds to get like your mouse to work and stuff like that, all of those issues are no longer a thing. So generally speaking, in fact, it's easier to get into Linux than Windows now. And not only that, but faster, because generally speaking, a Windows install will take you an hour and a Linux install will take you 10 minutes. So, I'd say it's just generally easier overall. And I don't think
plus you can run a live USB stick and actually test your entire system out before you even get started. So you can kind of do it in like a read-only mode before you even click that install button and make the commit. And you can go as far as actually trying to install software and stuff like that in that live session if you have enough spare memory there during it. But things like Linux Mint makes it super easy. You don't have to really learn a new, where's this where's the menus hiding and stuff like that. That's why they have these operating or distributions that kind of make it a little simpler and lower the barrier to entry for actually using it as a desktop computer. So you don't have to get into the command line too much. I mean, most of the stuff that we do when we do, showing how we get a build working and stuff like that, we always drop into the command line because we're very familiar with it. And when we try to do that, we also try to document exactly what you have to type in those lines, so you don't have to really think too much about everything about what's going on. So for beginner, you don't have to worry too much about understanding the architecture. I mean, as a Windows user, if you're a Windows user, you probably don't understand a lot about that architecture either. It's changed so much over the years. It is not quite the NT kernel that it used to be back in the NT 351 days and the Windows for Workgroups days. It's come a long way, and it makes a handy dandy Linux distribution itself when you put the WSL2 on there. So it can do quite a few things that it couldn't used to do. And of course, Mac OS has done a lot of changes over the years as well. And now with the M1, oh my Lord, they're learning how to torch SSDs, I guess, now. But they're gonna give Intel and Samsung some more money, I think, for making some robust SSDs that can withstand their thrashing and hashing.
I found that out after I went ahead and bought one, of course. Let's see. We got N5RKO asks, what is a good CW trainer app?
QRQ.
Yeah, QRQ is the one that comes immediately to mind for me. And there are a ton of CW trainer apps, so all of them are fine. There's a bunch of Linux native ones. I don't think you can really go wrong. I mean, if you want to learn CW, there's 1,000 ways to do it. Nicholas K C1. Holy crap. AC1.
Do you guys want me to handle the Q&A stuff and read them to you?
We need our magnifying glasses that we read the newspaper with every day, right?
I can see it actually. So
that's just true for dual booting with Windows 10. All of them. They all dual boot with Windows 10 just fine. Can't find one that won't.
Yeah. You still want to be slightly careful with that, though. So
I mean, you want to be careful about your OS partitions for sure with any kind of dual boot installation, but specifically as distributions are concerned, they all work.
Yeah, I would pick a really good reason to have a pure dual boot machine to always dual boot, because generally there are other weird things that occur, and most people experience the clock issue where your time changes when you go back into Windows because Linux likes doing something odd with your system clock. It actually likes putting it back in UTC, and then when your Windows comes back up, it says, "What the heck is this?
Yeah,
I thought I had local time stuffed in here." So now your whatever your offset is off. So you have to run your update Windows time deal to get it back in sync. Say, hey, yeah, fix the time. It's not 8 hours ago.
Bill, here's one for you, Bill. WA5DSS. Bill says, how do you heat your garage?
I don't. I just freeze out here. That's really. Now I have a little a parabolic dish heater that I put right on me, so I'm roasting myself while I'm in the garage when it's cold. But if it gets too cold, generally I record upstairs. And I'll record on another mic or something like that. So, yeah, if you hear a podcast where I don't sound the same, it's because I'm recording on another computer where it's warmer. But I try to do everything out here because that's just too much crap to kind of bring around. And the garage is full of stuff, so it gets rid of all the echoes and stuff like that. So you can always tell everywhere else there's echoes everywhere. I just bounce all over the place.
Marion KB1YLK says or asks, someone mentioned framework for developing. It scrolled off. Hang on. Scrolled off. Someone mentioned framework for developing coding. I assume, is there a good framework that works with already written ham radio applications? And that would be dependent on the language the application was written in, I would assume. They're all over the place as far as that goes.
Yeah, generally, some of them use actual toolkits, like all your FL products, FL Digi, FL Rig, use the Fast Light toolkit as their at least their UI environment and stuff like that. Obviously, all the code's open sourced under the hood, so you can go take a look at that. Framework wise, there's not too many that are specifically tied into something. Normally, the language sort of dictates. I think the only oddball that sticks out in my mind is CQR log because it's written in Pascal.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the modern version of Pascal, but so you have to download all of the IDE and stuff like that if you want to do development against CQR log. But yeah, not too much framework dependent stuff there. It'd be interesting to see if people start doing that.
There's a quick question I'm going to answer here from W5RKO before we get to the one that's not so easy, or N5RKO, sorry. What antenna modeler app for Linux do you suggest? The only one that I'm really aware of is XNEC2C. That's sort of the go-to for Linux native graphical antenna modelers. And I said that kind of fast. It's X-Ray November Echo Charlie 2 Charlie, XNEC2C. So definitely look at that. W2WF again says, what are your thoughts on Sigwin as, why does it keep scrolling off? It's a Linux environment, yes, that runs on your Windows. I find it confusing, but would appreciate your feedback regarding alternatives such as stop scrolling off. such as
running Ubuntu under VirtualBox. Yeah, you don't want Sigwin anymore. You don't want Co-Linux. You want to install the Windows subsystem for Linux, and then you can install your distribution of choice into your Windows environment. So if you don't have the latest version of Windows 10, which it would be 20H2, which gives you WSL2, I would get that. Go ahead and run your updater until you can get that feature set, and then get the WSL2, Windows Subsystem for Linux 2, put into your system. And that will enable you to go to the Microsoft Store and install Ubuntu, Fedora, Manjaro, and a bunch of other distributions that will run way better than having it virtualized in any way or running Sigwin. And I wouldn't think Sigwin's really a good thing anymore with the advent of WSL. Since we've had Windows Subsystem for Linux inside of Windows, there's not a better alternative. That's for sure. And while you're doing that, go ahead and install Windows Terminal if you haven't already installed it. You'll thank me later for that.
And for those,
Russ, up at the top of your window where the question and answer is, there's a view. You could click that to unanswered, and you get rid of things scrolling off so quickly.
Oh, that helps. But also, I noticed that if I click on a question, it doesn't scroll.
You highlight.
I can read the questions and you guys can answer them.
Okay.
Because apparently I can see call signs.
Yeah, that would probably be better.
This one I've kind of wanted to answer because I think it's been out there a little bit. This is from Tom at 8ZM. I have tinkered with Linux a bit, but find the bizarre app names to be unintuitive and hard to figure out. Okay, windbrain effect, but why the goofy names? So usually it's because they are concatenated forms of some word that represents the application, or it's like the initials of the person who wrote it. So yeah, you'll come up with some really weird stuff. And we've also noticed in the ham radio world that applications get named for the last three letters of a call sign of the developer. So there's a lot of YFK stuff and DJ stuff and stuff like that. Usually there is an actual reason for a program that has a strange name, but honestly, they're all created by the developers, so it's literally at their whim. And also in a lot of cases, they can't call it something well-known because that well-known thing is already an application like for Windows, and they can't call it the same thing. So,
yeah, I concur.
All right, so let's see. Sierra K4N LIA. I've gotten some antenna modeling software to work under Wine. Yeah. we talked about that. MNANA-Heil and Easy NEC. Again, XNEC2C is Linux native. Just go for that. Let's see. We answered that one. Quaggy Modeler. Tony, stay out of this. Let's see. Moo, what's cooking today?
Well, today we had chicken katsu for dinner with some rice and some edamame. So
cool. I'm gonna have to pour another glass of wine
well, you had
soon, or maybe I'll pull out some whiskey. So
yeah, Cheryl should do a recipe right now while we go refill our cups.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I see.
That's fine. I'll bring Cheryl some wine too while she's talking about her recipe. There is one more question in the Q&A though we should get to before we do that. This is from Jim W2JC. Why are there so many different distributions, and what's the difference among them? Again, a huge topic. Bill?
It's the reason why there's so many is because there can be so many. Linux, remember, is just a kernel. It is not all the packaging and wrapping and everything else, the bows and the whistles and all the other good stuff. So a lot of these distributions have kind of gained their own popularity for doing very certain things, like being a media-centric distro, like Ubuntu Studio. Or AV Linux or something like that. There's a bunch of other ones out there that are very specific to very specific things. Even ones that have kind of, they're based on a distribution of products already, like packaging and everything else. Like Andy's Linux is kind of popular as well. It's almost a distribution of its own because it's not very specific to Canonical or Mint or what have you, even though it is based on a Debian platform. A lot of them are all derivative works of other work. So you have your base distributions like Debian, which is the source of where Ubuntu comes from, where Linux Mint comes from, where Pop! OS comes from. Then you have everything like the windowing environments or the desktop environments are, pretty much plug and play on top of any system. So now, like, you can get any system in a different flavor. And I don't know. I just the reason why there's so many choices is because there can be so many choices. It's not like it's just Windows or just Mac. This is way bigger than that. And the open source nature of things is to create and extend, and to pass on and redistribute and package and just keep the life cycle going. And so it's kind of cool that there is so many options out there.
I don't really have much to add to that. And there's a question in the regular chat that I wanted to kind of answer real quick. It's from Arthur K8XG. He said, "Do CW ops teach you a mental translate? You'll never get fast enough to do it properly." And actually, to really do it properly, you can't do it. You can't do the sound of individual letters. You have to eventually start hearing the sound of words. So that's the only way to do it effectively. All right, we're going to take a quick break here to refill while Cheryl carries us through with a recipe.
Sure.
All right. Well, there's going to be like 2 blank windows here for a minute while we move around, and then we'll be right back. And Cheryl,
well, you can kill your cameras if you want. So.
Well, that's true. I can turn it off. There we go.
So we get to look at Bill's garage. It's piled full of stuff. We get to look at my kitchen in the background. So as I said earlier, tonight I fixed chicken katsu for dinner, and that was the recipe that I picked to share with everybody tonight. So the recipe for the chicken katsu is, let me scroll down to get to it. You need some boneless chicken breast halves, and you need to pound those to about a 1/2 inch thick. You need salt and pepper. You need some all-purpose flour, an egg beaten with a little bit of water, a cup of panko breadcrumbs, and some oil to fry your chicken in. And you'll want to make a dipping sauce for it, a tonkatsu sauce, which is a little bit of ketchup, some dried mustard powder, some garlic powder, some ground black pepper, some Worcestershire sauce, and some oyster sauce. And you bread your chicken, dip it in the flour, then the egg, then the panko, and deep fry it. And once it's golden brown, pull it out and serve it with the sauce. And as I said, I also use.
Hey, now I can be in your feed. Hi.
Great.
Yeah, I can't do that at all from where I'm at.
No, because you're on the other side of the United States. But the edamame was from Walmart. It's steamed in a bag in the microwave. So, and my drink recipe for tonight, since I'm buying time to Russ get back, I decided to go with an Asian themed drink. So I picked a cocktail that was very simple and very delicious. The Kamikaze Cocktail, there's a little bit of backstory about it. They think that it was probably invented in Tokyo after World War II during the American occupation of Japan. Kamikaze means divine wind in Japanese, and the drink is made with equal parts vodka, triple sec, which is orange liqueur, and freshly squeezed lime or lemon juice. It's often served as an aperitif, straight up in the cocktail glass with a lime or lemon twist. And if you want to pair it with something, pasta or chicken goes really well with it. So there you go. You've got a cocktail and some chicken katsu. And we also like pork katsu as well, and it's the same concept. You know, pound your pork thin, boneless pork chops or something, pound it thin, and it makes a great thing. So now Bill gets to talk.
Oh, you want me to talk? Well, I'll just hit some of these.
Well, I can read you stuff that people have been posting.
Sure. Why don't you read me some questions?
Okay, it says, what happened, Steve Lawrence, AA8AF, says, what happened to System V and BSD?
It went away. No, just kidding. BSD, it's still alive and kicking. Oh my goodness. I actually reviewed a BSD distro not very long ago. Well, probably was long ago, but maybe a few months ago. And it got ham radio ready pretty quickly, so I was kind of impressed. So if you're still a BSD lover, that's definitely an option. Please, you can always hit our website, lhspodcast.info, and hit the search box. And if you just put BSD in there, you'll probably find some hits on some shows, and you'll definitely find some information for us. So that we've talked about. So feel free to do that. As for System V, Russ, you got a comment on System V?
System V is still around, and in fact, we just did a review of a Linux distribution, speaking of specifics, that was designed specifically to run System V and to get rid of System D. I don't remember which one that was, but it's still there, and in a lot of ways, System D is still tied to SysV, but it's just not quite as robust. I mean, everybody sort of got used to the init script kind of thing, but once you get used to System D, it's not all bad. It took me a while. I was a hater, but I've come around.
It took me a while to make the switch over. It's like, how the heck do I see what's running? And
but it's
get used to going in the Etsy and initd.
But if you really, really like SysV, there's even a distribution to keep you in the SysV world. So check our website. You'll find it there. Control? What distributions are ham related from Arnie SA7CAR? Well, LHS Ubuntu. That's one.
That's right.
There's also,
we do have our own.
There's Digipup, if you want to go way out of the way. There's Andy's Ham Radio Linux. There's Shackbox. There's that other one that's for satellite and digital.
Dragon? Is that
Dragon and Star something?
Dragon SDR or Dragon something like that. Yeah. We've reviewed that one too. So you can find that somewhere in our show notes or on the website. But like with the ease of being able to put ham radio apps on any Linux distribution, I don't think it really matters so much anymore. It's really a preference thing. I mean, especially once you get into using Linux quite often, you're going to eventually find that you like a very certain look and feel, and you've got certain workflow you like, whether you like GNOME or KDE or Cinnamon or Mate or all the various windowing environments that you can install. You'll eventually settle in on one that you like, and that'll be your one that you use, and then everything else will revolve around that.
Is there a distro that permits playing Star Trek Fleet Command from Michel Abdullah? Is that a Steam game?
I don't know if it's a Steam game. There's more than likely it'll run via Proton, but yeah, I don't know. I would look. There's actually a Proton list of supported games, and the ones that sort of worked and the ones that work really well. There's an index for that. You can go ahead and search that up. It's called Proton. It's the emulator that runs via Steam when you're running Steam and Linux.
Let's see. Every time I switch back, it switches back to all. So.
Oh yeah, if you go back and forth between the tabs, yeah.
So Ian NV4C says, "What is the drink of choice tonight?" Well,
I talked about the Kamikaze that I had as my recipe. So.
Right, and you're drinking. Well, you were drinking Vidal Blanc, and now you're drinking a Moscato.
Moscato.
And I pulled my rarest Scotch off the shelf. It's one I will not review because you can't buy it. But at least since we have video tonight, I can show it here. And it is this Gordon and MacPhail Select 21-year-old Campbelltown from Glen Scotia. So
wow,
yeah, that's a pretty rare Scotch. So I figured I would have some of that tonight.
And I'm doing something quite young. It's a Dry Fly. There it is, Dry Fly. It's a wheat whiskey out of Washington, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's 120 proof, aged 3 years, and as you can see, I'm already into the bottle. I just opened it today. No, just kidding. No, it makes a great little sipper. Even being young, I think it's being a wheated whiskey. It has less of a bite, so you don't kind of get both things hitting you at once, the youngness and the booziness.
Let's see. I got a nice Scotch from KB1 WMH. Thank you very much. Let's see. Now I got to flip back because there is one unanswered question, and this is for Bill from W2WT. I have Windows 10 Pro to do I have to have Pro to install WSL2? I have Windows Home.
I don't think so. I think you can install it on home. The only one you can't install it on is probably like S maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't even, do I have a home? Is this what? Let me look at this other machine here. I don't think this one has Pro system. This is home, and did I install Linux on here? You know what? I didn't do it on this one, but I'm pretty certain I can. I'll get back to you on that. I'm pretty certain you can do it on home. There should be no reason. I mean, the only thing that Pro adds is like network authentication and stuff like that for doing Active Directory server and stuff like that. Stuff that isn't terribly important to a general user and stuff like that. But I'll take a look and see if that does work.
Russ, you're incorrect on the call sign.
What's that?
If you're incorrect on the call sign, it's W2WF, not WT.
Oh, my apologies. I believe we've actually caught up, I think, on all of the Q&A. That's amazing. But feel free to ask more. And if we have forgotten one, I do apologize. Please ask it again. But there were a lot of questions floated there at the very beginning. I think we got through because I saw the facility for us to actually check off the ones we answered. So I think we managed to get through them. And there's been some good chat in the regular chat, too. It's just really hard on this platform to juggle back and forth. We literally needed a moderator. Say, hey, here's a question.
I offered.
Well, we couldn't even get you on at the beginning, so.
Oh, no, I was on when you guys, about 2 minutes after you started, I was.
You were in? Okay.
Yeah.
I got your text, but I didn't respond to it. Obviously, that's why it took 10 or 15 minutes to get you actually on board, but you're here now, so.
Right.
So the WSL will install in Windows Home, so Windows 10 Home, so no problems. You should be able to put that on there, and then as soon as you have that, you reboot, and then you can install your favorite distro.
Daniel K6 DLC says the bottle reminds me of DEF CON drinks. I'm assuming he's talking about your bottle, not mine. So mine just looks like a bottle of scotch.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of an interesting shaped bottle.
I have a couple of bottles shaped like that. My bottle of Wiggly Bridge actually looks just like that.
I think the brown sugar bourbon is like that too.
And like Charles Fowler says, yeah, the WSL is available for the 64-bit versions of Windows 10 only. So as long as you're 64-bit. I
think that's the same shape as yours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same shape. So let's see, Misha. What's Misha asking here? What is your favorite podcast and what is your favorite ham radio podcast? Well, I know the answer to that.
Well,
what's the only podcast you listen to?
Well, your tagline is right on the header of our podcast. He said way back when, before he was a host of the show, it's the only amateur radio podcast that doesn't put me to sleep. So,
yeah, and that's still pretty much true. I do think that ours is the better one, but that's just a personal opinion. And I think Dan, the KV6 and you said we were slightly better than Static, so that's gotta be good for something.
That was my paraphrase of what he said, but
other podcasts, I mean, I listen to a bunch of podcasts. We were just talking about that earlier today. I listen to like 30 plus hours of podcasts a week. So is there really a favorite in there? I don't know. I listen to a lot, so probably stuff you've never heard of.
I'm ashamed to admit that I don't listen to podcasts.
You used to.
I used to listen to a lot of podcasts, but I also used to have a lot of windshield time in which
you had like 8 hours a week.
Yeah. So I don't listen. I tried. Let's see. What do I listen to when I listen to? I listen to Workbench. I listen to 100 Watts in a Wire. I can't not listen to Richard's Radio Adventures. I just, just have to. I don't know if I have a favorite. I don't watch any of the Twitch streams. I don't watch, or listen to, I don't do podcasts. I rarely even listen to this one.
It tells now. Hey, did you fix that edit? We got a couple more questions here in the chat. Let's see. We got the Shigu. This is from Mika, AJ6BD. Now, the Shigu, whatever, GSOC is a Linux device for which I've recently jailbroken to get to a shell. Any recommendations for learning more embedded Linux? It wouldn't be us. We don't get that deep into device development, but like the Open RTX guys obviously are breaking into the TYT radios and the what are the other radios they were doing? The MD, is that the same thing as that TYT as well?
The MD 9600, MD UV 380, 390. Yeah.
Not quite the same kind of radio that Mika's talking about here. I believe that's like an HF sort of web SDR, not probably web SDR, just SDR. Looks like an HF SDR device, as far as I can tell by the Google bots and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I would just start hitting Stack Overflow and all the usual places for doing embedded work. But we generally talk about applications and users, so that's not really what we do.
There's a question that got put in the regular chat, so I'll just do that one now, from Anthony, who says, I have an Elecraft K3 and RTL 2832U. What is the best software for a pan adapter? I can't answer that question. I do not know. I don't deal with pan adapters.
Yeah, basically it's a spectrum analyzer. So, there's plenty of pieces of software that take a look at spectrum for Linux. You can obviously look at any of the GNU radio blocks and stuff like that. You can probably build your own out of those components. But yeah, it's not Yeah, normally if you're doing some kind of pan adapter, you're looking to do more of an embedded display and a purpose-built UI and stuff like that. So I think you got probably a little bit more than finding a piece of software that's going to do that for you.
Misha mentioned a few podcasts that he listens to, or she. One of them is Ham Radio Crash Course, which we should definitely mention. That's a good one. So if you don't listen to Ham Radio Crash Course, you probably should, especially if you're in this chat.
Yeah, there's lots of good ham radio podcasts besides us. I mean, we're just here, obviously, but like the ICQ podcast is really good. Amateur Radio Newsline, if you just want amateur radio news and stuff like that. Yeah, there's tons of guys out there.
Steve Sainer, one of our Patreons, says, I haven't used WSL before. Can you use the GUI of your Linux distro?
Yes, there is a way to do it. It's a little weird, but it does work. And you can find it, on probably very recent articles on WSL2. So if you're doing some WSL2 research, check that out. You'll find where you can use remote desktop to remote desktop back to yourself. And it's only going to improve from here. I wouldn't think that Microsoft's too far off on providing UI hooks for actually running the X Windows or Wayland stuff. So I would say we're not far from that, but you can for sure do graphic stuff using a sort of a remote desktop to yourself.
A couple other podcast mentions, ICQ podcast. We talked with those guys. The last Ham mentioned we were actually able to attend. That was fun. And Newsline, Neil Rapp. That's a wrap.
Yeah, we've been on Neil's show too, Ham Talk Live.
He's been on ours. Yep, gotta spread the love.
Yeah.
Arnie SA7CAR asks, the only problem with Linux in the Ham Shack is, assuming fill in the blank, the hosts, I would say.
The slackers that run the darn thing. Right? The really bad first-time cold reads, yeah, that's probably the worst part sometimes. Once in a while, we get it right.
Look at how badly Bill has messed with it.
Yeah, cutting and pasting and then copy editing. We're not the best at that. We're looking for a copy editor for our show notes, so so we don't have to do them.
W2WT has asked, have you guys heard of a signal averaging real time for ham radio? I mean, that should average but random noise in our receive signal. Just a thought for a possible dev project. I think that one goes out to all the developers out there. We're just users, not devs. Unless you have thoughts on it.
Call sign correction again.
Yeah, no, I would definitely look into the GNU radio project for any of that fancy signal processing stuff.
Daniel K6DLC says, you guys are having fun. Keep up the great work. Well, we intend to.
Woot. Yeah, when it stops being fun, we'll stop the podcast.
Exactly. Let's see. Arnie says, the only problem with Linux in the Ham Shack is the southern drawl. Well, there's no southern drawls here anymore. There haven't been for quite a while. So,
yeah, not here. I am from Florida, but we're south of the South line. Like the South stops at Ocala, Florida. So as long as you're from Florida and you're from south of Ocala, you're not from the South anymore. You're just from Florida. You're just from Florida.
Yeah.
So that, like all the crazy people in Florida you generally read about, they're from that line just north of Ocala there, Ocala North. If you look, most of the weird crap happens all these like, mid to northern Florida counties. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. But I have been in Montana for almost 11 years now, so I don't know if I can count as a Floridian for much longer.
Yeah. Just like I'm not a New Englander anymore. So still got called a Yankee from time to time.
Last weekend, we actually went to dinner with some friends who are from the Boston area. And about 2 seconds into the conversation, Russ was back in Boston, and I was giving him crap about it on the way home. Because we had to do that whole, is it khaki pants or is it khaki carkies? So
I was never that bad. Car keys never came out as khakis.
Khaki.
They do with your dad and your brother.
They
though.
do, yeah.
How do you say garage then?
I think I've always said garage like everybody says it. Garage.
Or is it the cap what?
The cap what? Yeah. Nah. No. No, it was always garage. Carport was, we just never used that term because to me a carport is.
You did have a carport.
Yeah, carport is.
Yeah, you do have to have a carport. Yeah. It's an open garage. Right?
Yeah.
It's a portico, but not attached to the house.
Let's see. Arn says, we're great hosts. Thanks so much. Well, thank you. Let's see.
So,
Yep.
Yeah. We should mention
we have
that
a thing
we
to
did.
do, don't we?
Yeah, we were running a thing on the podcast for our subscribers and Patreons, a little giveaway for them. And we originally, because this is episode 400 that we're recording right now. So this is our 400th show. So for the 400th show, we decided we decided to give out for one of our patrons, but I'll put in for an additional unit so we can award two. So he sponsored one of the units. And I did the drawing yesterday and have contacted everybody. And we'll go ahead and announce those today, which is at the bottom of my list here or something. I should have them memorized by now. But one winner was Jim McKenzie, VE5EV, also known as Photo Jim in the Discord. So congratulations, Jim. And that actually has been ordered. I'm just waiting to get the shipping confirmation and whether my credit card will freak out sending something to Canada. And the other unit's going to Patrick, WM2A. And I probably have Patrick's last name here too. But if you have his call sign, you can look up his last name. Of course, I have it here. Where is it? Oh, Patrick Eng. Yeah, I knew it was something similar. Something simple. So, yeah, those are the two winners. Both of them have been contacted, and we'll work on getting the shipping information out to you, too. Thank you for being Patreons and supporters for the program, and I believe both of them have been supporters for quite a while. So we thank you very much for your support and hope you enjoy your new toys as soon as they arrive. And tell us how they are, because I don't have one yet. I have a few Raspberry Pis just sitting around here. I even just within reach. I was looking for one within reach. I have one right here. Look, here's one. Oh, and here's another one with the screen. And oh, Christ, here's another one right over here. And what do we have on this one? Oh, this one's in a nice little case, and it has a Linux in the Ham Shack sticker, which are, of course, available on our website. This is one of the uncool ones. This is just a standard one. We have the shiny ones as well, and I think I have one in my case down here I could get out and show you. But we have some merch on the website that also helps support the podcast if you're not interested in becoming a Patreon or a subscriber. And Russ can probably tell us all about that stuff. What do we got on the shop right now?
Since we're all drunks here, it's mostly glassware.
Pint glasses,
shot glasses, wine glasses, coffee mugs, things like that. We do have shirts and hats, which we do need to do another run of. We don't have any of those right now. We do have the stickers, and there's other stuff too. What we were going to do is we're going to give away to patrons and subscribers some free swag, which is going to include a couple of stickers and some other stuff that we have. I figured we'd do 3 of those. I've got a little wheel that I'm going to bring up here that we can spin for those. And then I was going to do a giveaway based on answers in the chat room. So I have a question that I can ask that's pretty simple, and we'll give away some swag to whoever answers it correctly But let's do the wheel spin first thing because that'll allow me to do a screen share. All right.
Yeah, we'll see if this works, right?
Yep. So here's that. Hopefully it will pop up here any second. There we go.
Hey, there's the wheel. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So all of the people who get spun in this will do 3 spins, and they'll get a couple of stickers and some other Linux in the Ham Shack swag. So let's go ahead and run this a couple of times. I'm going to click the little shuffle here first, and then I'm going to spin it. Pretty cool, huh?
So cool.
Oh, look at
that.
Lucky Patrick.
He's like a winner, chicken dinner.
So there's the first one. Let me do number 2 here. Congratulations, Patrick. He was one of the ones who, excellent. We'll be in touch, Wayne, and we'll get you some stuff out to you. And finally, well, that's a long spin there. Oh, long time. And the first person to answer it correctly in the general chat will get some swag. We'll get in touch with you somehow, and just give us a call sign so we know where to send some stuff, and we'll send you some Linux in the Ham Shack swag for free. So obviously, if you don't want the swag, you don't have to answer the question. But the question is this: in what month and year did Linux in the Ham Shack first publish episode number 1? What month? What year? First person will get some swag. It'll be good stuff too. So we'll watch for that. Let's see. Go back over to the Q&A here.
I like the January 1970. Yeah, we've been doing this since before podcasts even existed.
Let's see. Nope, no one's got it yet. July 2007. There it is. Jonathan K1BTZ. First one to answer it. October 2008. So congratulations, K1BTZ. You won some swag from us, and we'll get it in the mail to you real soon. Thanks for participating. And to everybody else who participated too, just didn't quite get in fast enough.
Yep. And we're going by the display on our computer.
Yeah. We have to go by that. The first one I saw was Jonathan, K1BTZ. So
yes, all Badger. You didn't get it.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. So do we have, let's see, we've got a bunch of guesses over in the Q&A. Any questions over there? What about me? What do I get? High five. High five.
High fives. There you go. Way to go.
So anyway, well, we had a 2-hour slot here. I didn't know that we would be able to stretch it out that long. And I'm kind of feeling like we're not going to.
Nah.
Well, we've done close to an hour and a half, so that's pretty good. So let's call this like last call for questions, whether about the show or the hosts or Linux or technology in general. We'll try and answer those, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. And if you want, in the regular chat, not the Q&A, please tell us if you're drinking something, what it is you're drinking. I'd be interested because we usually get asked that, so I'm asking you all. Let's see what else we got in the Q&A. So not enough. Yep, fair there. Participation awards. Let's see. I think I deleted something I should have looked at. Survey of distributions running. We already did that.
Well, we haven't done it lately.
Yeah, we haven't looked at it. Let's see. 48% Ubuntu, other 30%, Mint 16.5%, Fedora because it's the best, obviously not at 4%, Arch at a little over 1%, and Pop OS at a big fat 0.
No pops. Oh, poor guys.
So what do you got? Ooh.
So Mint and Ubuntu.
Ooh, so we got quite a bit of response here. We got Water, Coke 0, 1792 Foolproof, K1BTZ, the winner of our swag, has chosen wisely in the bourbon world.
Yeah, 17.
Odell Double Dry Hopped IPA, right up your alley, Bill. Iced Tea,
Woo-hoo.
Guinness Pub Draft, St. Arnold's Beer, Belvini 14-year-old Caribbean Cask, very good choice. Weller Special Reserve, very nice. Dragon's Gold Craft Cider, Vodka and Lemonade, Apple Cider, Armenian Brandy. Ooh, W6XYZ. There's the winner for most interesting so far. Homemade limoncello. Very nice. Cold Folgers coffee. Okay.
Black Butte Porter. I'm familiar with that one.
Don popped in to say he didn't answer the survey, but he's running Pop OS. Black Butte Porter. That's a drink I really like. Some Chardonnay, Canadian Royal Black, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof. Very good, Tony. Corsair Triple Smoked. We visited Corsair a few years ago in Nashville. That's a great place. I still have. I don't know if we have any more of their whiskey, but
no, we cleaned it up.
That's some great stuff out there. And let's see, Kirkland Scotch, so the Costco brand Scotch, excellent. Yingling for a different beer choice. Shire's Get the Flock Out of Here Farmhouse Ale, nice. Rick guessed July 2010. That's a little late.
It's right on top of things. He must be on the slow feed.
Buffalo Trace. Apparently, someone's drinking straight Everclear.
120 proof. That's the same as this. No, 120 proof. Yeah, no, 120 proof. Yeah, 120 proof. Right there.
Yeah, you don't have to go straight to Everclear for that. Apparently. No, I have some stuff that's higher proof than that.
Oh, yeah,
Any comment on ham pie from K5CSA? Was that a question we missed?
Oh, that's a new question. I was just looking at it. It looks like another Build a Pie kind of project. I haven't reviewed it. I haven't looked at it. I can't really comment on it. Besides, hey, if it works for you and get your pie ready to operate it with ham radio software, then hey, go at it. Yeah. Well, but I'll definitely bookmark that to look at later, and maybe we'll talk about it on one of the future episodes coming up. We like talking about Raspberry Pi, including just downloading the software for the Rig Pi project that you can download and use on your own Raspberry Pi. So that's another option for doing Raspberry Pi work. Is to go ahead and use that commercial one. Let's see. Here's another one. Thoughts of WinLink using Linux. This is something you just started doing, right, Russ? This is from WD6CDN.
Yep. I have set up PAT, which is a Linux native WinLink 2000 client for Linux. That was redundant, but you know what I mean. And I initially tried doing it using AX25 with Direwolf, and I could not get that to work for whatever reason. I was having all kinds of permission issues. So I switched to the RDOP project, ARDOP, and was able to get it to work running natively using PAT and RDOP, and actually made a successful email transmission and reception over HF using PAT and RDOP. So maybe check that out, and maybe we should dive into WinLink at some point, but we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't really gotten into it real heavy. So,
yeah, I think we're waiting for us to get a little bit more traction on using it.
Yeah,
and I think I've only dabbled in it, and you've just started dabbling in it, so we're still in the very shallow end of using some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty. And the documentation makes getting WinLink with RDOP set up pretty easy with Pat. Do some Google searches. I can't remember the call sign of the guy whose videos I watched. I could probably pull it up here real quick. That got me into it. Let's see. I think it's somebody we had on the show, actually.
It's probably KM4HK.
KM4HK.
Yeah, the Build-A-Pie guy.
Build-A-Pie guy.
So, yeah, because Pat is on there, and so is RDOP and everything else. So, yeah.
So it's KM4HK.
So, yeah, if you're using Linux and you want to use WinLink, then go to Get Pat. So take a look at that.
And we touched on this one earlier in the show. W7WIA asked about something like JT Alert for Linux. Real quick, Alarm JT, Alarm JT, is a Linux native clone of JT Alert, but don't use that. Use Grid Tracker. Just go straight to Grid Tracker, gridtracker.org.
Yeah, Grid Tracker for the win. Anything else here? Yeah, Pat RDOT works good on Mac too. Yeah, it's a good client. I think it's a good combination. Dial up, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think we've come down to the end of it. So we've done about 90 minutes straight up. So let's call that good. 90 minutes is long enough for any one listen of this program. So, all right. Well, we really appreciate all you guys coming on and hanging out with us and being a part of the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo. I know Eric has been running himself ragged today for Z1UG, trying to make this thing work. And with all the different issues he's had with the Air Meet and VFairs platforms, it's been a lot of work for him and his team to get this pulled together. And we really appreciate all he's done to make this actually happen, so that we can participate and be involved with all of you, even though there won't be a Hamvention this year, as there wasn't last year, but we can all hope for 2022. So, yes, yeah. So with that, I guess we can do our normal sign-off here. Thank you all once again. We'll be in touch with the winners of the different raffles and stuff that we haven't already contacted about getting the stuff out to you. And make sure to check out our Discord, our website, lhspodcast.info, and all the other ways that you can contact us, social media, and so on. And I think that's about it. So this has been episode number 400. 400 in the can of Linux in the Ham Shack. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD, 73.